Good morning, everyone. Hi, I'm Dr. Priyanka. So, today's lecture topic is laboratory procedures for framework constructions in RPD. So, we are going to take this lecture in two parts just to simplify the topic because information in this lecture is a little too technical. So, coming to the learning outcome, so by the end of the lecture, you should be able to plan the sequence of laboratory procedures involved in fabrication of cast metal prosthesis, recall the step-by-step procedure involved in removal partial denture insertion, explain appropriate post-insertion care for patient receiving removal prosthesis, summarize the post-denture insertion problems and its management. So basically, I'm only taking the first learning outcome today in part one of the lecture. Next time, I'll be taking part two and I'll be covering the other three learning objectives. Okay, coming to the basic learning objectives, which are okay, sorry. So these are around 12 steps. Okay, so after we take a primary impression, we pour a cast, we do designing, and then we do framework designing. After we do receipt preparation, the mouth preparation, and the mouth, and then we take a final impression. That final impression we send to the lab, right? After that, these procedures begin. So for the lab construction of the removal partial denture, following steps should be kept in mind. Okay, so that is presence of a properly prepared and articulated master cast. Okay, it doesn't have to be articulated all the time, but yes, you require a proper master cast. In some cases, yes, they do send an articulated master cast. A diagnostic cast with the neat and specific design carefully drawn on it. A work authorization order covering all aspects of the desired denture, which must be given to the technician if the partial denture is being fabricated by a dental lab. Okay, so that means all the instructions, the designing, everything has to be carefully written and given. Okay, all the impression, all the cast. Okay, so if you compromise with any of this, the quality will be compromised, even of the framework, and then obviously of the treatment. Coming to the duplication of cast, so the purpose of duplication, so we want to preserve the original cast. Sometimes I tell you to duplicate the cast, right? So even in for a complete denture or an RPD case, so to preserve the original cast, uh, to check the fit of the framework, then processing of interim prosthesis with wax relief and blockout. Okay, so if we have a duplicate cast, we can process the prosthesis and do blockouts, and then again we will be able to fit it properly in the original cast. Formation of investment cast for framework fabrication. So this point exactly, guys, is done by the lab. Okay, so we all do not do it here. I mean, obviously all the procedures are followed and done properly. Okay, so re-tripoding the master cast. Tripoding are three marks placed, one on the interior, two on the posterior part of the palate for the maxilla to reposition back to uh, the proper surface. So I will show you this in surveying. So we do tripoding and surveying. So now we are doing a re-tripoding. Okay. So that is to ensure the path of insertion removal of the partial denture to be determined by the clinician. The technician must ensure that all the framework fabrication steps are based upon this insertion. Guys, this is the tripod marks, okay? Exactly like that. So You put a round and you put a X. So that's how, and you get, so you do tripoding and during the surveying procedure, so you can place the cast back to the position all the time, right? Okay, and then you have drawn, this is just diagnostic cast or primary cast, and you have drawn the design, okay, of the framework you want. So now we do a design transfer. The RPD design should be transferred from diagnostic cast to the master cast. Okay, so um, yes, we actually just send the impression to the lab here, but yes, ideally you should pour the impression, draw the design, and then send it to the lab. Okay, so we let the lab pour the impression for us. So if the lab wants to duplicate at that time, they can happily duplicate the master, the final impression, and pour two cast. So, but there are another methods to duplicate the cast as well. Okay, we'll go through that. So the retentive clasp arm should be transferred with extreme care. Okay, so basically the design transfer should be accurate and okay. So now we have transferred. You can still see the tripod marks, and we have properly designed the denture base. Okay. All right. So now we will do a block out. So it is an act of placing wax and other materials into undesired undercuts on the master cast. Okay, so we are trying to place wax and we are doing block out for undercuts in a complete denture patient. So you know it, guys. So we regularly do that. So there are three types of blockouts: that's parallel blockout, tapered blockout, and arbitrary blockout. Okay. Okay, guys, even here. Okay. 2 to 6 degrees from the path of insertion. So you can use any tapered instrument. Yes, you can do it from the surveying tool in the surveying. Okay. So that is exactly how the surveying tool looks like. Okay. And they have put wax here and they're just trying to trim off the wax and make it straight. It's just to minimize. Okay. And to have an accuracy during duplication. Okay, coming to relief. So any wax added intended to make the framework stand away from the master class is termed as relief. Okay, so yes, we do relief. In RPD, relief is most common used with the conjunction with denture base. Example here, beneath the framework extended into the ridge area for attachment of resin bases. Okay. So these and these. Okay, so you can give some reliefs at some places. Okay. Sometimes you do have undercuts there as well on the ridge area, guys. So there you can do it. Yeah. All right. And let it set. Okay, so this will be rubbery and then you can any of the investment material. Okay. So either it's just gypsum bonded or phosphor. The refractory material, the cast they get out of pouring the refractory material is known as the refractory cast. Okay. So once you get a refractory cast, the plastic pattern are glued to the refractory cast. So we do have wax patterns which are there of different thickness and colors. So you're supposed to place that on the cast and glue it properly so it doesn't move. Okay. And once the plastic patterns are glued, they're joined using wax. Okay. Then spruing the framework should be done with extreme care. All the sharp edges or in the refractory cast should be rounded for the smooth flow of the molten alloy onto the mold. Okay, so then the spruing of the framework, guys. Okay, so now you have this wax pattern. Okay, you can see that the spruing is done. Okay, you have to create a hole here for the investment ring. You do spruing, okay, by wax, and the material is seated in the middle, so nothing moves and everything is in place. So all the attachments are intact, okay. So now coming to the investing the refractory cast. Okay, so this is done in two-part investment process. First being a 3 to 4 layer, which is painted on with the brush, and an investment ring large enough to accommodate the refractory cast, and its first layer is selected. Okay, so investment ring is placed and a layer is painted on. Okay, so an appropriate amount of refractory material is measured and mixed and placed into the investment ring. Okay, so in the investment ring, you can see that the refractory material is placed. Okay, so now they're trimming the investment mold and preparing the sprue for burnout. So once you already have the sprues in place, now you have to prepare for another procedure, guys, which is known as a burnout. Okay, so this is an application of investment on the cast for a complete adaptation of the investment. Okay. Okay, coming to the wax elimination or burnout, the time and temperature required to eliminate the wax from the mold cavity is specific to the refractory alloy system. So whatever system we have used and whatever investment material we have used depends on those. Okay, each system is developed to provide mold expansion that closely matches the anticipated shrinkage of the alloy as it solidifies. So the expansion and shrinkage equalizes, and it compensates for the loss. Okay, so as it solidifies, things are mostly in place. If there's a problem here, then comes the casting defects, guys. Okay, coming to the casting. So here you can see that there is an induction casting, which is done for removable partial denture framework, which is the method of choice, guys. So basically, uh, induction casting is like a manufacturing process during which a liquid metal is like injected by centrifugal force into a mold of a desired shape. Okay, so once the mold has the liquid metal, once it settles down and everything solidifies through the mechanism, through the machine, through the investment and casting, uh, what happens is the mold is either ejected or broken. Okay, and then the whole thing is taken out. Okay, so you can see that you do a finishing of the framework. Okay, so guys, that's how your framework looks like basically when it comes, when the person has finished casting an investment. Okay, so investment ring is here, sprues, and this is the framework, guys. So you'll have to cut through the whole thing and remove this, and then only the framework will be remaining, and then you'll have to finish, polish, trim, which is from the metal trimming burrs. Okay. All right. So finishing the framework, sprue removal, finishing and shaping the framework. Okay. So you only as after the lab person has seated it properly on the um, duplicate cast, he will see if there are any trimming, any adjustments has to be done, small adjustments. All the adjustments are done properly, and then it is fitted on the cast he has poured from your impression, which you had sent the final impression. Okay, so when he fits it inside, ideally it should fit. If there's a problem, he'll adjust and he will send the processes to us in the clinic. Sometimes, yes, guys, we find that there's a problem in fitting, and we do try and improve that problem and it fits. Sometimes there's looseness in the clasp, and then we need special pliers to put it together. Sorry. So those things are done, and then we can proceed further with our jaw relations, guys. Yeah, bite registration and then further process and procedures. So basically, this was it, guys, and this is a big technique of how we process the RPD, which is basically the cast partial dentures. And I'll be taking the part two next week. Okay, and so guys, for RPD, you can read standard textbooks, which are McCracken and Stewart's. Um, yeah, for any other questions, you can come and see me in the prosto department. I'm always on in Polyclinic 3. Come and see me for any further questions. And thank you for patient listening, guys.